Hey, Faisal, I have a question for you. Um,
Yeah.
does my pants make me look fat?
Yes. No.
What?
Yes. No. I
Wait,
don't
what?
know.
Uh,
Uh,
are you saying I'm fat?
I don't know what I'm saying.
Do you ever wonder, why do I always seem to give so much more than I get? All I want is to be appreciated and loved. Is that asking too much? Why do all the jerks get the hot girls while I get stuck in the friend zone? When will it ever be my turn? If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Nice Guy Show. This is the podcast that asks the question, how do I break free from the nice guy syndrome so I never have to come in last again? Now here are your hosts, Faisal Coker and Chuck Chapman.
Thanks for joining us today on today's podcast of The Nice Guy Show. My name's Chuck Chapman. I'm here with my co-host, Faisal Coker. And today we're going to talk about a topic that might trigger some people. We're going to talk about what do you do if she's put on weight and you're no longer attracted to her? What do you do? I mean, do you just tell her, hey, you're put on weight, I'm not attracted to you? Do you say nothing? Do you tell her to go to the gym? What do you do? And it's something that a lot of guys are faced with. And a lot of the guys that I work with, and Faisal, I know that you work with, have struggled with this issue before, which is why we wanted to make it a topic for today's show. So, Faisal, what's your experience been like this?
Oh, this is such a delicate topic, Chuck. And even talking about this, I feel like someone's gonna be sitting there putting some comments about, you can't
Mhm.
say this, you can't do that. Well, I just want to put a caveat. I have, I am emotional eater, and I do struggle with this as well. So there is some understanding about, what's going on. I have been in situations, I have been in relationships where my partner did start putting on weight, and yeah, I know, women put on weight. My ex-wife, she put on weight. When we had our kids, I understand that, but there are times when there isn't the circumstances she started to put on weight, and I'm just looking at her and going, I don't feel that kind of attraction anymore. It's and I know that a lot of guys struggle being really honest and direct about this, because it's we're really shamed about weight. And and I remember in modern days, or when it's about weight and women, you don't go there. That's the message I heard. I don't know about you,
Yeah,
Chuck, but did you hear that
yeah,
message?
yep, yep. You do not talk about a woman's weight or her age
Yeah.
or her birthday. These are the things that we were told, like, as men, as boys, kind of growing up, is like, you just don't talk about those kind of things, and you ignore that. And I think the problem is when we ignore it, it starts to sort of eat at us, and we start
Mm.
developing these resentments towards our partner because we can't really express what's going on with us. Oftentimes guys, even if they sort of broach the subject from a very soft place of, trying to understand what's going on, because women are oftentimes, more emotional creatures, they have a hard time expressing about what's going on with them, because I think that the issue of weight really attacks the feminine at her
Mm.
core. And if I would say that the masculine and masculine energy, and again, we're talking about energies here, masculine energy is all about strength, right? Power, strength. Feminine energy is about the aesthetics. It's about beauty. It's things like dance, it's art, it's all of those kind of things. And so just like if a woman attacked a man at his core and strength and said you're weak or you don't make enough money, you know, a man saying to a woman, you're not beautiful or you've put on weight, I'm not attracted to you, is equivalent. There is a part of us inside of us that longs to be strong and longs to be, that
Yeah,
masculine longs to
absolutely.
be strong and the feminine longs to be beautiful. Now, you recently went on a trip to Japan and you found something interesting there.
I did, yeah. So I was, very curious about, the weight and health, and I'm really focusing on this because most nice guys don't really look after themselves as much. So I was there, and I noticed that a lot of the Japanese were in shape. They had hardly any body fat. Didn't have any like big guts or anything like that. The guys were slender, and the women were in shape as well. And that just got me thinking. I was like, what, why, and what's the difference? And what I noticed was, one Japanese on average walk about 18,000 steps.
Mm.
They
Oh,
eat smaller portions. Yeah, they eat smaller portions as well. They really look after themselves. They really pride themselves in so many areas in their life, in discipline and structures around them. Around them. What I also noticed was I was reading this article, and one of the Japanese women said that in our culture, if you start putting on weight, you'll be shamed for it. Whereas
mm.
here, if you even approach the topic of weight and everything like that, you are a bad person. It's a
Yeah. You'll be
no-go
shamed.
area. Yeah, you'll be shamed, and you're the bad person for calling that out. And I think this is a huge problem in society and in also relationships, because how difficult is it, if she asks you, "Have I put on weight?" And most of the times I just went, "Oh no, no, you look fine in that." Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're lying out your teeth, like you said, and that's going to build up resentment. And you're thinking, actually, no, you have put on weight. This, what I really want to say, I can't say because I know you'll take it really bad, and then you'll get annoyed with me, and if you get annoyed with me, it's going to put a damper and mood on it. So I'll just say what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And she,
Yep.
by gut instincts, knows that you're telling porkies there. You're bullshitting there.
Absolutely. So why would she say, or why would she ask, does my butt look fat in this? You know, and I think the reason is because she
That's
wants.
like what a question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think what she wants is to be accepted, because the feminine again is all about safety and security, and so that acceptance. Um, and yet internally, she's also struggling with the fact that she knows that she's put on some weight and she's probably not feeling good about herself. But the feminine needs that constant reassurance, that constant validation. And so it puts us in this double bind where we can't really say what we want to say, um, because we'll upset her. And
Mm,
and so this cycle just kind of continues on in the relationships. The problem then is, I think, is that as guys, we start to actually get resentful towards our partners when they put on weight. And it's that resentment that starts to really eat away and erode at the
yeah.
relationship, the core of the relationship.
Yeah.
I had a
Have you ever?
client
So,
recently.
oh, go on. Then I was just about to ask you. Have you ever experienced that with like uh, past relationships that you ever been in, or with clients as well?
Yeah, lots of clients, even past relationships where this has been an issue. I had a client recently, and we were talking, and he was kind of complaining about this, and I said, from a standpoint of evolutionary psychology, it makes sense, because the feminine wants to feel safe. All right. And
Mm,
so if she's not feeling safe in her relationship, she's going to put on extra weight because she doesn't feel safe. And because she doesn't feel safe, unconsciously she's eating more to put on more weight, because if you leave, then, and again, the sort of typical masculine feminine psychology, evolutionary psychology is, if the man leaves, then she's going to be on her own. If she's on her own, then she needs resources, and that extra weight is going to help her until she finds another mate. So it makes sense in
yeah.
some ways that if I'm in a relationship and my partner isn't feeling safe,
Yeah.
that she might start putting on extra weight for that reason. And that's just one of, I think, a multitude of reasons
Yeah.
why that can happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's one thing, and I can notice as well. I emotionally eat as well, and I do resort to, when I'm stressed out, when I'm anxious, there's a lot going on, overwhelmed. I do resort to food as well. Even
Yeah.
I've noticed that even the partners I've had, even if they feel safe and they feel really safe, but if they're anxious from work or situation or things going in their life, they will just resort. That's just our human nature. It's like a coping
Mhm.
mechanism that we
It
have.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think we talk about the masculine and feminine, but also we talk about one of the things that another layer that I like to talk about is emotional maturity.
Mhm.
And as we evolve into maturity, which is something I'm doing, I'm not always
Mhm.
say emotionally mature in a lot of aspects, but I am developing those muscles, and also being able to have an open, direct conversation. Say, look, if our conversation is built on you know, I see loads of dating profiles that says, I want a man who's open and honest. Really, you really want a guy who's going to be open and honest all the fucking
Mhm.
time, or is it when it doesn't, when he's going to say
Sure.
something that you don't want to hear, right? So I'm
Mhm.
saying, look, listen, set that boundary, make it open and direct, and have that conversation, but also bring in the layers of empathy and understanding. Hey, I see that there are difficulties. So in my past relationships, even with my partner, one of the things I do to help each other with this. So we're not saying, look, I will support you in your work, I will support you, but it's something that you have to champion. It's something that I have to know that you want this too.
Right.
Because, yeah, for me, it's very important to have our requirements. For example, there are many times when a guy starts losing his way, his masculine
Mhm.
part. His character starts going where he becomes indecisive, he
Mhm.
loses confidence. Something happens along the way where he just isn't showing up the way that she would find it attractive. And there
Mhm.
are many times I hear women say, oh, I'm not attracted to him anymore. He's not the same guy
Yeah.
anymore. He's lazy, he's
Mhm.
indecisive, he's doesn't pull his weight,
Mhm.
excuse the pun. But there's so many things that he's not showing up. And he is watching porn all the time, playing games. I get that. So there will be times where she won't be attracted to him. There are things that women will do that we won't find attractive. And
Mhm.
what I want to say is, if it's okay for women to call them out, it's okay for guys to call them out too. If she says, I don't feel comfortable in, he doesn't make me excited anymore. He doesn't make, there's so many things I hear from, I've coached a lot of women too in the past. I just wanted to make sure that, the guys understand that actually it's okay for you to have that same opinion and be honest
Mhm.
about it rather than lying and building up resentment about this.
Because sometimes when we call something out, it actually motivates the person. They may not like it, and you may not like their response, but
No.
I've seen it happen, time and again too, where like, if she's saying, "Hey, I need you to show up more," you know, he feels that sense of pressure from her, and he starts to show up a little bit more. And if he says, "Hey, I need you to, go to the gym more," and she may not like that, but she might start doing that. And I think as human beings, oftentimes we need a little layer of compassionate shaming, if you will. I can't think of a better word, to motivate us, because we oftentimes don't see ourselves in the way that other people see us. And so, but again, it's a very delicate thing, and I think it's one that has to be supportive. It has to come from a place of love and concern, and um, and that we're coming from this as uh, a way that creates more security in the relationship, as opposed
Yeah.
to a threat, which is going to kind of drive her further away. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
So have
I
you
think.
ever had situations where you had to deal with that situation, or like having that conversation, or how did you navigate this?
Well, in my first marriage, my ex-wife had put on a lot of weight, and it was something that I maybe kind of broached a little bit, like, you know, but her anger was so um, fierce around this topic that I didn't say anything. And today, my wife is pretty thin, and I don't actually have to say anything to her. She's the one that she weighs herself every day. She's very, very conscious about her weight. So and I think a lot of that has to do again with the fact that she feels a sense of security. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that she's very has a lot of feminine energy about her, and so she's about the aesthetics, and she's about how things look, and so she wants to look good, and
I
and
think you
so
said a really good. you raised a really good point there, Chuck. You said about you know, uh, approaching a subject, I'll be met with, anger,
Yeah.
hostility, and that's where a lot of guys, this is where I've recoiled, I've pulled back, because I know that if I approach something that's upsetting me, and if I talk about this, and she'd be like, "How dare you talk about weight?" And what right do you have? You don't understand about women and weight, and it's like like a place where I get frustrated because it's a no-go zone. It's like completely stonewalled. You're like,
Hmm.
no way, you're not talking about this. You're walled. You can't talk about this. You'll get gaslit, and you'd be wrong to even approach, have an open dialogue about this. And I know that the guys are quite get wimpish. I got really wimpish around this,
Hmm.
and I know that she got sensitive. So it was a balance of like, what does a guy need to bring to the table, like to this conversation, and what does she need to bring to this as well.
Right. And what I'm going to say is it's more important that you work on yourself than you try to get your partner to work on themselves. That as you are working on yourself, as you are focusing on becoming a better you, to become more of a conscious man, to become more of a man of integrity, more of a man who is going to have courage, who's going to have honesty, who's going to have compassion, and as we come from those places of integrity and we develop that within us, that we learn how to approach these subjects with a more delicate way that's encouraging as opposed to shaming. The reason she acts with anger is because under anger is always hurt. Okay. The
Mm.
hurt is that core wound of the feminine, of her not feeling beautiful, her not feeling lovely, her not feeling that aesthetics about herself. Just like the core wound of a man is his strength, he feels a sense of weakness, or he's put down. The woman is about the aesthetics. And so if I'm focusing on myself and building my strength, I think what will happen is that there'll be a natural equilibrium that starts to take place in the relationship. Now,
And
if
if
it
that doesn't
doesn't,
happen,
if that
yeah,
doesn't happen, probably what's going on is you are married to or have a partner who has some deep, deep wounding in her life. A lot of women, and again, I know I'm making a generality here, but the number of women who have been sexually abused or sexually mistreated, especially in their early days, um, put on weight as a protection because their beauty is something that they become afraid of. And so, because they've been sexually abused or hurt early on in their life, they learn not to be able to trust men. Well, how do I get men not to look at me? Well, I'll just put on weight and that will keep me safe. And again, the feminine's all about safety and security. And so, oftentimes, a woman who is doesn't that equilibrium doesn't happen, there's something deeper going on in there, and that's something I think that's important for us to give her the ability to explore and look at, and encourage her to go to therapy, to go to women's programs, to just kind of work on that.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
ultimately, if she doesn't put on weight, you have a couple of choices. One is you have to
even if she
accept
doesn't
it.
lose weight,
If she doesn't
yeah.
lose
So if
weight,
she's, yeah,
you accept it, right? Or you decide that this isn't a relationship that you can be in, and you want to be in a relationship with somebody who has a similar values as you do.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's a very difficult conversation, but it's a conversation that has to be had. It's like saying, hey, listen, we can tackle this together.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is whether whatever you struggle with, whether the guy struggles with his part, or she struggles with her weight, or any of the issue, is them taking ownership. I mean, and
Hmm.
that's the most important thing, is, hey, I will take full ownership of this. I will lead this, because I've been in a situation, and I've known a lot of clients where they have got really frustrated. They're saying, I do everything trying to work around this and nothing's happening. I'm saying, because you're taking the ownership. You want it more than she wants it. If she doesn't want it more than you, then it's a conversation you can have. If doesn't align with us, and if that's no longer what you guys are aligning to, then you need to make a decision whether you want to stay with that person or not.
Mhm.
Because things change. Ultimately, people change over time, and it's always a good idea to have an audit. And this is where I've been in a situation where I no longer align with that person. Hey, your lifestyle, the way you do things, doesn't align me. It doesn't help me.
Mhm.
And what I've started to do is in my household, I've started to add some principles. So one of the things that you guys can do is, hey, like for example, mobile phone use. I have a certain principles around mobile phone. So it comes from a place of purpose. It comes from a place
Mhm.
where it benefits everybody else. So for example, certain times of the evening, I'm like, okay, to my kids as well, and to my partners, anyone who stays over, I say, look, this is the rule of the house. It safeguards all of us.
Mhm.
Then I have sugar rule as well. There's certain days you can have, sweets and chocolates and things like that when we have a movie night or something, certain days,
Mhm.
but not every single day. If you've consumed it today, right, then you have to, learn how to manage your emotions. I know that the food industry doesn't make it easy for us.
Mhm.
It's very, very hard. So there are some certain principles that the masculine can bring into the house and say, look, we're going to do this. And I like what you said as well. You have to lead it yourself. You have
Right.
to set the standard. You have to be an example.
And that's a great example of you showing up with that masculine strength. The masculine is that disciplined energy that says, this is what we're going to do. It's the leadership part of it, it's being able to set boundaries, and that kind of thing. And I think when you do it with love, you know, it's coming from a place of love. Hey, I want you all to be healthy, and I want to be healthy. So this is what we're going to do, and I'm leading that in my own life, and have an expectation that you also come along for the ride.
Yeah. The
So I
saying I
think,
have is, like we all row together.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So if
exactly.
if we're not rowing together, then this might not be the boat that you belong on. I even tell my kids
Hmm.
as well. Like, listen, if we all stay, and this is the rule of the household, we all row together. It's a teamwork. And
Yeah,
I know sometimes I get tempted with junk and crap and everything. I'm like, okay, do not bring this into the house. If it's in the house,
yeah,
you know what's
yeah,
going to happen. We're going to lose
yeah.
control. So the rule
We
is,
need it.
look, what we don't, let's not buy this. Let's have some principles in place that can safeguard. And I think this is what the guys can do as well. They can start bringing this conversation and say, look, we are going to have a conversation about this. I know it's uncomfortable, but we have to be adults about this, because you want to have a relationship where nothing's off the table.
Mhm.
Because if this starts becoming off the table, then you're thinking, what else is off the table of conversations?
And that's what we do as men. Oftentimes, we acquiesce our strength, and we don't have difficult conversations. Instead, we avoid conflict. And when we avoid conflict, we're actually avoiding intimacy. We're avoiding having those conversations that get to know, kind of get underneath and understand our partner and what she's going through. The fact of the matter is that if someone's putting on weight, there are multiple things
Mm.
going on, whether it's food addictions, whether, like I said, the sexual abuse, or it's an addiction kind of thing, or it's just kind of she doesn't feel safe. It can be a multitude of different things, and oftentimes it's more than just one thing. But
Yeah.
same with us. There's usually more than one thing that's going on with us. So we have to have compassion for ourselves. We have to have compassion for our partners. But at the end of the day, I think the masculine sets the tone and takes the lead, as Dr. Glover says. And that's what we need to do in our relationships. We need to do it first within ourselves, and then we bring
Hmm.
that into the relationship with our partner, with our family, with anybody who, like you said, who's in the household.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And first step one, become curious. Step two, then set some, you know, boundaries and leadership rules in that. So it's a really simple step on that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So Chuck, next topic. I've got a really awesome topic. We're talking about difficult conversations. How about
Mm-hmm.
how to deal with a difficult ex when you have kids together?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a topic that a lot of guys could benefit from. I think that, when you have an ex and you have a child, you're still partnering, you're still parenting, have a partnership of parenting. Um, and that can be a really tricky road to try to
Mm,
navigate, can't it?
absolutely, absolutely. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being at the Nice Guy Show. I hope you guys have found this valuable from Chuck and I, and check. Hopefully, we'll see you guys at the next episode, which is going to be about how to deal with difficult ex when you've got kids together. See you at the next one. Take care.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show, the podcast that helps nice guys move past their insecurities and fears into the fullness of their masculine strength and confidence. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast and check out the website niceguyshow.com for more information on how to connect with Chuck and Faisal. Until next time, keep living your best life.